So for those that follow me on, Twitter or Instagram, plug, you probably know that I really enjoy cooking. It is one of my favorite hobbies. And I do like to post recipes on there from now and again, but those that do know have asked me a lot about, cooking tips. And I started to think, what was it like when I was first starting out? Because I didn't always cook. In fact, I don't think I really started cooking until I started dating Erica, because I wanted to be able to impress her by making some nice meals for her. And small tip, that really works. People really dig it when you make a nice home-cooked meal for them. Quick way to anybody's heart. It's personal, it shows how much you care, it's just a great way to show that person in your life how special they are to you. In fact, I remember the first thing I ever actually made for her was, she told me that she really liked French food. So I went out and I studied. I'm like, okay, what is a typical French dinner? And I saw some stuff like, okay, so they like fish, usually like a small little salad thing, some capers on there, a small little butter reduction sauce. This sounds great. And then I bought like a baguette to go with it, made a nice candlelight dinner, a nice romantic evening. Turns out what she meant to say was she likes baguettes. And she really, really enjoyed the bread. I don't know if that's because I fucked up the fish. I thought it came out all right, although the capers were a little briny, if I recall correctly, but that's neither here nor there. The baguette was the star of the show. Anyway, tangent aside, people have been asking me a lot about tips for cooking, and I'd love to give some. I'm not an expert by any means. I never went to culinary school or anything. I'm purely self-taught. But when it comes to adulting, cooking is kind of up there on the list of responsibilities that a grown adult should do, right? I mean, I guess that's why home ec class was a thing. So I kind of wanted to start it from the ground up here, and that's if you're starting out fresh, let's say you just moved out and your parents or whoever your guardians that you're moving away from didn't leave you with any kitchen utensils or kitchen equipment to start out your adventures in cooking. Where do you begin? What items do you need to really start to set up your kitchen so that you're not having to go out every night and buy fast food or pre-prepared meals from various places? Now, obviously, you all know I'm a huge fan of the slow cooker, and if that is the first item that you buy for your kitchen, I think it is a great one. But let's talk right now about items that are just used purely in stovetop and oven cooking. This is my list of what I believe to be kitchen essentials. The first tool I could think of that is probably the most useful in any kitchen is a good stock pot. Like if you're starting from absolutely nothing, this would probably be the first thing I would recommend getting because you can make pretty much anything in it. Boiling things like pasta or potatoes, rendering down animal bones to make stock, using that stock to make soup or stews. I mean, you can use it for so many things. Let's just say that when you're looking at old fantasy things and you see that cauldron sitting over an open fire full of indistinct soups and stuff, that there's a reason it's there, and that's because that the pot itself is a quintessential tool for cooking. So if you're gonna start anywhere, start there. The next tool I would recommend is a good knife and cutting board. Now with the knife, you can save yourself a lot of money by prepping your own ingredients, chopping your own vegetables instead of having to buy things that are pre-cubed or pre-chopped, and you can buy meats that, weren't pre-cut so that you know exactly what part of the animal you're getting these from. It's also great for buying in bulk. For example, back in that slow cooker video, I kind of geeked out about a 13-pound slab of brisket. I went out and bought that, and I cut that into 4 pieces, which can still probably be cut down further. And I've been using it piece by piece, just making various meals with it. By doing that, I saved a bunch of money as opposed to just buying each of those pieces of meat individually. Now, when you are looking for a knife, you want one that you're kind of comfortable with. I'm fairly comfortable with one this size, although I have a few smaller ones as well. It depends on what you're making most of the time. But the most important thing when you're buying a knife is you want to buy one that's of good quality, at least the one knife that you're going to be using the most. Typically look for one that's of a good stock stainless steel, and one of the most important places to look is the handle. You want to see that silver line basically running all the way through it. That's what you call a full tang knife. It means that the body of the knife is being supported all the way through the handle. and it's attached by these little rivets here that you can see along the side. Now, what a lot of cheap knives will do is when you see like a knife that's just black handled and you just got the blade on this end, is it'll have this little sliver of a piece that goes into that handle, and when you're cutting stuff, eventually, especially if you're running it through the dishwasher, that'll get warmer, and eventually that handle might just slip off because the adhesive that's holding it there is not strong enough and is probably like melted and stuff within the dishwasher. Now that will more often than not lead to an accident, and that's why I typically put a knife this high on kind of the priority list of kitchen utensils, is you want to make sure that you have a good one. Next up on the list, and I bet you think I'm going to say skillet, no. A spoon. Now I go with a wooden spoon. You might be able to go with like a silicone base, but the reason a spoon is so important is, one, you can like mix stuff in there, but the most important thing when home cooking is being able to taste what you are making. As you're going through the cooking process, as you're seasoning, as you're adding things together, as you're letting it cook, you always want to, dip the spoon in there and make sure it's tasting good, to make sure it's seasoned appropriately. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with something that's either too salty, not salty enough. It's just, make sure you are tasting what you are eating, and a good wooden spoon is very useful for getting through all of that. Now, once you have those items and you're ready to move on to the next thing, that's when I would recommend a skillet. My personal favorite skillet is the cast iron skillet. They're relatively easy to take care of once you know how. Cast iron just has a lot better heat retention than some of the stainless steel or ceramic pans that you might be using. The only issue you might run into is it's not non-stick, and there are some definite benefits to having non-stick pans, but a good cast iron skillet will last you a very long time if you're able to take care of it, so I highly recommend that one. The additional benefit of going with a cast iron skillet is you can go from the stovetop to the oven, and you'll have no issues, because if you're using one of those, normal stainless steel pans with a rubber handle, you can't just go throwing that in the oven. That rubber handle's gonna get all melty and gonna create awful smells. You just don't want to do that. But hell, with cast iron, you can even use that as kind of like a makeshift baking sheet. Cast iron cornbread is actually really good to make. If you just get a batch of cornbread batter, throw it on there, cook it up so it's a little crispy around the sides, and then bam, throw it in the oven, pops up, done, delicious cornbread. And obviously a skillet can be good for so many damn things: eggs, bacon, seared meat, burgers, whatever the hell you want to make, really. Sauteed vegetables. When it comes to When it comes to stovetop cooking, a good skillet is very hard to beat. Now, with just the tools I've listed so far, you can make nearly anything. So a pure bare bones by the skeleton kitchen, I think, could have those things and you would be fine. But if you wanted to go a little further, I mean, you can always get some baking sheets. Makes it a lot easier to make biscuits or cookies, whatever you want to do. I know my wife loves baking significantly more than I do. But with those, I'd probably also go with some cooling racks, because if you just have a baking sheet and a cooling rack, you don't need an air fryer. All you need is a convection oven, because what an air fryer does is, it moves hot air around an object that is suspended in kind of a wire frame. A cooling rack will basically do that for you, and you can make some really nice crispy baked chicken wings that way, and you don't need to go out and buy an air fryer just to do that. That's nothing against if you have an air fryer and you love using it. By all means, if it's something that you use all the time, go for it. I don't make a lot of things that require that tool, therefore I feel like if I had one, it would just kind of clutter my kitchen. Now, cooking, like with any hobby, is kind of about starting small with the basics and then moving up as you go along. I do have a list of items in my description below that can link you to a bunch of items that I've described here, and maybe even a few more if you're just looking to upgrade your kitchen setup. But yeah, if you're just getting started, start small, work your way up, and as you figure more out about your style of cooking and what you enjoy to do, then you'll know what you'll want to get next. Yeah, that's everything I could really come up with for kind of a bare bones basic kitchen. Is there anything that you think I've missed? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there commenting, letting me know about what I forgot, feel free to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, as usual, if you are watching this and you think there's somebody else in your life that could probably use these tips, feel free to share that with them. I would greatly appreciate that. Yeah, feel like this is a short but sweet little beginner into adulting 101, and there are things around me right now. You can feel free to click on those to go to various videos of other things that I have made. Also my Patreon link right there. I got my list of my executive producer patrons going down below me right now. Thank you so much for the support, all of you. I greatly appreciate it. I would not be able to do this kind of thing without you guys. And I will see you next time. that 20 seconds? I think it was 20 seconds. If it wasn't, then I'm still talking. But I don't know.